It's ongoing. And we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, everyone. We've got to Tuesday night here in this corner of YouTube land, Face Front. What we're doing is continuing on with getting closer and closer to the Halloween festivities. And one that I wasn't even sure I would be able to do without the stream getting pulled down, but apparently I can. What we've got here is the first time ever I'm drawing the one and only space girl from the one and only cult science fiction film or horror film or zombie film or vampire film, Lifeforce. As you'll see here from this Blu-ray jewel-cased box set that represents both the European and international cuts of the film, with that little quote in the bottom and a little nice wraparound painted poster of the movie. There you go. And yes, I worked around the whole nudity factor by having simply the life force energy emanating from certain areas of the body. We've got people coming into the stream. That's good. Introduce yourselves. We've got my subscribers, Christopher and Relentless, introducing themselves. That's good. A simple quote from Relentless is, here's Johnny. Well, maybe in later streams, as we get closer to Halloween, I might wind up rendering one of the goblin lady from The Shining, the one in the room 237, who starts off looking like Bo Derek and turns into Cloris Leachman. Especially because when I came in and the main one I can't show off because it's already plugged into the TV, so I can't pull it away. But my Blu-ray player that was a gift from my subscriber Nick, that finally came in the mail today. Got that ready. But along with the Blu-ray also came this Blu-ray copy of The Shining, which actually features some specials. We've got a commentary from the Steadicam operator and an historian. We've got the short documentary, The Making of The Shining from 1980, which was directed by the director's daughter. 3 new featurettes, Crafting The Shining, The Visions of Stanley Kubrick, and Wendy Carlos, composer, along with the trailer. The trailer for The Shining was very simple. Just the bleeding elevator shot with the text crawling over it. And History of the World Part 1. Finally, a film sent to me for this new Blu-ray collection that isn't either monsters or some kind of a sort of a one without nudity, basically. Because look at the other ones I got. I showed you Lifeforce already, and we've got Showgirls, got Sin City, and we've got Roadhouse. So, yes, here's one. According to Nick, when I brought up The Shining and whether or not I would draw the woman in the room 237, he says, I always found the woman in the bathtub to be very scary, especially the 1997 version. Yep, although because, you know, it's network TV, the 1997 version of The Shining, they couldn't show her, you know, full frontal, so just cut straight to her sitting in the tub, and it's the goblin version. Here's according to Nick, I didn't send those movies. I did send the Blu-ray player, and yeah, it's already hooked up to the TV, so I can't really shut it off yet. Okay, and it turns out it's my subscriber Relentless who says I did. She's the one who sent me The Shining and History of the World Part 1. Well, okay, I haven't seen History of the World Part 1 in a long time, and this is the kind of year where you're pretty much supposed to watch The Shining, so okay. And according to this, you have 2 more Blu-rays coming to you, Luke. Thank you very much, miss. And yes, I know I'll pretty much be watching Lifeforce now. I'm required to now that I'm actually rendering the space girl here. And what does everyone think of the strategically placed ways I worked around the full frontal nudity of the character by simply doing the energy coming from here, working as a sort of a Lifeforce swimsuit, I would say. Hey, if anything, this could be a new Sports Illustrated swimsuit cover if they went back to focusing on what's going to get them attention instead of what's going to be woke. Just have go back to Kate Upton, but put CGI energy emanating out of her breasts and her crotch. Sell a lot more than Ashley Graham. I like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining also, though, says Nick. Yeah, that's there are those people out there who are on the Stephen King side of hating the Shining movie because of all the changes to the novel, and you got those really the Stephen King loyalists who, and then they'll take it to, oh yeah, that's why the Shining the miniseries is better because it's like the novel. Well, I've never actually seen the Shining miniseries either way. I've seen clips of it, but the clips of it are aside from seeing Rebecca De Mornay, it's most of the time I'm just really bored. Yeah, there's one scene of her in a silky little nightgown, but besides that, other clips I have seen feel like I've seen this done before and I've seen this done better. Adapting The Shining, that adaptation, try, if you're gonna do it, make it better. And yeah, I'd say the film did that. So I'll wait until I watch the Shining miniseries all the way through to really make a firm opinion on that. But unlike with Lifeforce, where I've seen both versions of this film, the one that was cut in America and the release everywhere else, and yes, the European cut is definitely the better one. Yeah. Or it's like look, see there at the back, they have the space girl in her little glass coffin. You see there the little trick they did, along with the bat wings to cover up the lower section, and for that we get this. Have you seen 2001: A Space Odyssey? That's an amazing film. Yes, I've seen that several times. I even actually own the comic book adaptation of it that Marvel published 8 years after the film came out, and it was written and drawn by none other than Jack Kirby, from one grandmaster of a visual medium to another. Oh, according to this, it's I sent you Blade Runner. Thank you. Thanks for this. That's a film I haven't seen in a while. And actually, when the final cut of the film came out in theaters, that was the 25th anniversary. I did have the big DVD release of it that had all the different versions of it, including the final cut. And also, since you weren't around for last night's stream, the Fantastic Four omnibus you set me off my wish list, that came in, and I did show it off at the beginning of the stream, so we do have that. Thank you. I sincerely thank you. And yes, King the Legend. Yes. Yeah, well, we've all sent him stuff. Yes, Nick, it seems like everybody in the chat here's oh, I see that arrived. Yes, I was wondering if we were all waiting for you to come into the stream last night, but you didn't show up. So, and oh yes, and much to the delight of Christopher, yes, since she is full frontal naked, of course that means you do see her feet. Much like last night, you do see her feet. And when it comes to doing the version of her in color, I've got right here the skin tone, since remember the actress was French, and more often than not the French as in the Parisian types, unless you go out to the shores, unless you go out to the south of France, more often than not they're quite a pale people, especially the like the models and the actress types, unless you get into specific. Hence why the color I chose for the skin tone of the space girl was called pale purple. That's why I'm not even sure if the skin tone I did the color even picks up on the camera here, but yep, I chose pale purple, which is one I tend to go for the more pallid kind of a skin tone, whether it be, whether it be a white person who's much more, either tan or less more pale, or just, like some kind of sickly, or in this case, extremely French, where, yes, did I mention the actress was French? Not really in her film debut, even though they do in credit and introducing Mathilda May as Space Girl, but she had been in a cover-up of films before, and of course she was naked in all those too. And the only other big American film she did was a couple scenes in a film where Richard Gere and Bruce Willis are IRA operatives hunting each other, called The Jackal. Unfortunately, she's fully clothed in the few scenes she has in that film, but she was in a film later on that was a Spanish film whose title translates to The Tit and the Moon. It's an odd film. It involves, I would say, look it up at your own risk. But I will describe this. Her entrance in the film, she gets topless several times in the film, and the first time we see her is in a scene where a kid watches her go into a deli, and then every woman in the deli proceeds to pull their breasts out and laugh at him while showing him their breasts, except for her, who keeps them hanging out of her dress and smiles at him. According to this, Young Frankenstein is also on its way as well. What hump? Well, yes, I actually was watching that earlier in the week, so I'll be nice to get in that one too. And it's yeah, Jim. No, they're always great to watch, but it also reminds you that yes, we live in a world without Gene Wilder. Although, if he were alive today, there probably would be cancel culture hunting him because of the scene in Silver Streak where he disguises himself with blackface, even though it's at Richard Pryor's insistence. And he's telling, like, come on, man, Al Jolson made $1 million doing this. They put blackface on Gene Wilder. He's dancing around. He's got the little radio on his ear. He's joking. This won't work. Oh, it'll work. I just hope I don't see no Muslims. It speaks to the sweetness and the likability of Gene Wilder, that he could have even a professional relationship with somebody as wild and crazy and drugged out as Richard Pryor. Two people who really you think would not match, or like wouldn't be able to like work on a film set, and they became a good comedy pairing. There's Silver Streak. That's the one where Gene Wilder did blackface. Stir Crazy is the one where they're in prison. And the one, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, that was the last thing they did together. The one that features a young Kevin Spacey as a creepy criminal, which is actually good casting. And Joan Severance, the model and actress who wound up doing a lot of Red Shoe Diaries kind of stuff and was in Playboy a couple times. What was the Mel Gibson comedy she was in, Bird on a Wire, for like a scene as a gun-toting veterinarian that was an ex-girlfriend of Mel Gibson's. It was when Richard Pryor had his hair on fire. And according to Nick, another one, Bolero will be coming next week. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. And yes, we've got Young Frankenstein coming in from Relentless, and we've got Bolero, the Bolero and Ghosts Can't Do It double feature coming in from Nick. So I'll be putting all those on, even though Young Frankenstein and The Shining will definitely be festive, but the others will be breaking the rule about the festive movie watching around this time of year. You know, as long as nobody sends me Jennifer's Body, I'll be a happy guy. So there we go. There, like if you like last night, I saw it was on that channel Comet. That's that channel that mostly shows like reruns of science fiction shows, like the Edward James Olmos Battlestar Galactica and Sliders, and the 90s Showtime version of The Outer Limits. The 90s version of The Outer Limits was The Outer Limits with boobs and gore, because it was on Showtime, of course. And a movie they showed last night was a film called Rabid, which is an early film from the horror maestro David Cronenberg, who most famously directed The Fly, the Jeff Goldblum version of The Fly. And since then, since the 90s, has been doing like art films like A History of Violence and A Dangerous Method, about the professional rivalry of Jung and Sigmund Freud, which sounds more like a masterpiece theater, like TV special, than it sounds like a movie from the director of Videodrome. But okay. And one of the earliest, the second feature-length film he directed was one called Rabid, which was on Comet last night, and I watched it, starring Marilyn Chambers. Yes, adult film star Marilyn Chambers in her only mainstream film role. And it's about her and her boyfriend survive this horrible car wreck where she gets this radical skin grafting surgery that winds up leading to her needing to, she's only able to feed by feasting on people's blood from a fang that comes out of her armpit that then drains anybody she lures in of their blood and winds up infecting them with rabies, a kind of rabies that leads to everybody that she feeds from acting like the rage zombies from 28 Days Later. And each one of the scenes that shows Chambers feeding on somebody, the way she lures them in, I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but all of them, because you think in Marilyn Chambers, comes off like some twisted subversion of a 70s porno setup. Like there's a scene where she escapes from the hospital and she gets picked up by a hitchhiker. But then eventually she gets in close to the hitchhiker, and then the armpit fang comes out and feeding. The first time she feeds on a guy, she's crying and alone and wants somebody to comfort her in her hospital. And there she is in her hospital bed with her breasts hanging out. And then the guy lures in to hug her, and that's the first time we see the armpit fang come out and pierce the guy and feed from him. Another one, she's goes into the jacuzzi where there's a woman all alone, and she slinks her way into the jacuzzi, walking slowly up to her, talking to her all sensually, and then corners her in for a big hug, and then the fang comes out. Another one, she's in an adult film theater, and the guy goes in trying to get busy with her, and instead she feeds again. It was the armpit fang knows she how to use it if she hugs them. Yep, it's definitely a film where a concept like that is definitely somebody who is into twisting people's bodies. Or how is that not made on drugs? Like that, you know, that's the stereotype of people who make movies like that or like write like that. You know, oh, you got to be a big drug head. And you look at David Cronenberg, and no, here was a guy who was a very well-educated man who's a admirer of the works of the great Russian novelist Vladimir Nabokov, and studied media theory under the great Marshall McLuhan in Canada. He got into filmmaking. The initial short films he directed were in the tradition, trying to do those kind of underground weirdo short films that Andy Warhol was making in between painting and getting in on celebrity culture and all that stuff. And somehow from that, he got into, the first feature-length film he made was one called Shivers, which I think is a film that only just came out on Blu-ray. And it's a film I would recommend if you want a morbid time. If you want a film that you cannot unsee, I would recommend Shivers, because that's another one that Rabid is sort of like the spiritual sequel to a film about Shivers, because it involves freaky psychosexual horrors coming from radical surgical procedures. There's a doctor who comes up with these kind of phallic and fecal-looking parasites that are supposed to be organ replacement therapy. They're supposed to be these parasites that you can put in your body, and there'll be a new kind of a surgical organ to replace those inside you, instead of actually going in and organ donating from people. But instead, it winds up leading to violent sexual frenzies in the people that get infected with them. So the doctor winds up killing himself, and the schoolgirl that he was the patient zero, all the men she's been sleeping with start getting the side effects and start attacking and assaulting and spreading the infection, to the point of the doctor in this apartment building. The whole film is set in an apartment building that's it's an apartment that's supposed to be, it's called Starliner Towers, as in life becomes a luxury cruise when you live at Starliner. And the opening scene is cross-cut between the landlord introducing the apartment to this new couple that's in the middle of the complex. And he's talking to them and giving a sales pitch about their life will be a luxury cruise, cross-cut with that doctor choking out the schoolgirl until she dies, and then pouring acid into her stomach to burn out all the parasites inside there. And then he offs himself with the same scalpel. Unfortunately, she's already gone and infected other men she slept with. And it spreads and it spreads and it spreads to the point where the doctor in the apartment's hospital is the last person to get infected. And then it goes to a big scene of literally every tenant of the apartment getting to their cars and driving out into the city, because the apartment is on its own little island, like Roosevelt Island, off the coast from Montreal. And on top of all that, the film was actually funded by the taxpayers of Canada. Canada at the time had a film commission where they would give a funding to up and coming filmmakers, and this was the first film that they did that actually turned a profit. And yet the film became so damn controversial that there were people running proto clickbait articles about how you hate this film so much. Well, your money, your tax dollars went into it. And the director himself actually got evicted from his apartment when his landlord found out it was him who made the movie. So yes, he evicted David Korolowicz from his apartment on moral grounds. But it wound up actually doing him a favor. So he wound up getting to go, and his producer on Shivers also wound up staying loyal to him, and wound up getting his next script made anyway. And it was even more of a financial success, which was the Maryland Chambers horror vehicle Rabid that I was just describing earlier. And that producer that stayed loyal to this director, who actually made him good money and had a real distinctive talent that could be marketed consistently, was none other than director of Stripes and Ghostbusters, Ivan Reitman. Yes, Ivan Reitman, who took his clout as a producer and went towards becoming a director in his own right, while also sticking to being a producer. And in between directing Meatballs and Stripes, he produced Heavy Metal, the TNA fantasy sci-fi cartoon anthology film with everybody from Judas Priest to Ozzy Osbourne to Nazareth to Blue Oyster Cult soundtrack. It was yes, I would recommend that as a dark double feature of relatively obscure horror films. If you're tired of just watching The Shining and Nightmare on Elm Street all the time around Christmas and The Exorcist, then a double feature of Rabid starring Maryland Chambers and Shivers starring, the white guy from Lady Sings the Blues. He's pretty much the best known actor. Or if you're an aficionado of those kind of more obscure creature features, the actress who plays the white guy from Lady Sings the Blues is Lady Sings the Blues nurse, who was Lynn Lowry, who starred in a Radley Metzger porn chic film called Score, as well as other films, creature features of the time, or B-movie films like I Drink Your Blood and the Natasha Kinski version of Cat People, and some other films like that whose names I'm not coming across. Here's one. Now Nick is asking, do you want the new Friday the 13th Blu-ray box set from Screen Factory? Yes, I would love that. If anything, the original Friday the 13th is one that my father actually likes to watch because Betsy Palmer. That's Mrs. Voorhees from the first film, Betsy Palmer. That's one where when she died a few years back, there were a lot of not op-eds, but like a newspaper, like mainstream media outlets that were doing the articles about her that were talking about how she had this multi-generational cult following. It was I think it was the New York Times said Betsy Palmer, an actress remembered by different generations for different reasons. Because back in the 60s, she was prolifically featured on game shows like To Tell the Truth and What's My Line. And then later on, she wound up playing Mrs. Voorhees in Friday the 13th, which then made her a cult figure in the horror film community. And it's amusing how a film that she only did for the money, and she openly hated the script and thought it was a piece of shit, but she needed the money for a new car, so okay, she went and did it, wound up becoming a film that gave her like that reinvigorated and gave her a following later on in life. Not too different from Donald Pleasance. Like Donald Pleasance was the biggest billed actor in Halloween, and he openly told the director, "I'm only doing this because I have alimony to pay, and my daughter liked the music in the film that the director made before." And yet he went in, gave it his all for 5 days worth of work, and it became the career resuscitating role for Pleasance, and became the signature, pretty much his signature character in the golden age of his career. Because he was one of those, long time British kind of character actors where they'll go and whatever it is they're doing, they're always going to give it their all. Whether he's in some, acclaimed film, some acclaimed British film like The Great Escape, or in some acclaimed TV play like the famous 1950s TV adaptation of 1984, co-starring Peter Cushing, or if he was in Puma Man, Donald Pleasance always gave it his all. Or what was that one? The Italian horror film he did with Jennifer Connelly, Phenomena. Yes, Phenomena, the great Italian giallo film Phenomena, starring him and Jennifer Connelly in her first lead role, even before Labyrinth, where he plays an entomologist in a wheelchair who teaches her how to use her psychic power she has over insects. Yes, to describe Phenomena would be to say, picture an X-Men movie from an Italian horror director, because you have a lonely, confused teenage girl all alone with the psychic powers she doesn't know how to use in this upper crust private school. And then there's a bald British wheelchair-bound man who teaches her how to utilize her psychic powers to save the day in the end. Yes, if you thought Labyrinth had some weird kind of undertones when it came to having an underage leading lady, or that a future Oscar winner in, doing something like The Hot Spot was a weird thing to do, yeah, check out Jennifer Connelly in Phenomena. Here's one. Now that everybody's talking about this, now Christopher's jumped in, and yeah, Christopher's going to get me Pumping Iron. Well, it's oh yeah, that's Pumping. It's not just Nick who says yes. Pumping Iron is a classic. That's if you want a classic, just documentary in general, I would say that there's those people say like a certain movie based on like a TV show. Even if you've not seen the show, you'll like that movie. Like the Harrison Ford version of The Fugitive is one that is so great in its own right that probably that a generation plus of people who have never heard of the original TV show of The Fugitive from the 60s will still like the Harrison Ford version of The Fugitive. When it comes to documentaries, if you don't know nothing about its subject, if the documentary is well made, you'll still like it. People who know nothing about the bodybuilding community still love Pumping Iron because it's a documentary that draws you in to the whole subculture of competitive bodybuilding. And on top of it, introducing the world to the Austrian Oak, to the Terminator, to the man who will save Mars, the one and only Arnold. It was I believe so. Yes. And on top of that, and the Nick bringing up going back to Donald Pleasance, and yes, Donald Pleasance stayed up with the Halloween series all the way to the end, to the point where Halloween 6, which was the film debut of Paul Rudd, by the way, was also the last role of Donald Pleasance's career, and he died 8 days after they finished filming. And then, of course, the Weinsteins. That was, yes, Halloween 6 was the first Halloween film produced by the Weinstein brothers, and they demanded the whole ending be reshot. But Pleasance's death 8 days after shooting meant they had to reshoot a whole last 20 minutes around Pleasance. So you get a pre-clueless Paul Rudd wailing on Michael Myers with a lead pipe until he's gushing green blood. Here's one. Hey, first time, 25 minutes into the stream, and we've got Mildred coming into the chat. Usually she's one of the first ones. Here's one. Now Relentless. Christopher is bringing up about Betsy Palmer. She was a 50s bombshell of game shows back in the day. If you go and if you have a Game Show Central, that's the name of that channel. That's nothing but vintage game shows. And those black and white ones from the 50s and 60s, To Tell the Truth and What's My Line, you'll see Mrs. Voorhees on there prolifically as one of the contestants. Unfortunately, you won't see her, chanting to herself, "Kill her, mommy, kill her." Yeah, or if coming on is To Tell the Truth, the question is who am I? And there is Jason in his goalie mask, and some of the questions are, he drowned when he was 10. He wasn't much good of a swimmer. The counselors weren't watching him. You never paid any attention. Who am I? I'm going to say Jason Voorhees. Yes. That's Nick's asking, do you want some of the Halloween movies? Yeah, I love them. Yep. Although I would like to say that for Halloween 3 was the first one I saw. I had the VHS for that, and I can still remember the opening credits because it was the first time I ever saw a movie that showed a TV in the movie. There I was in front of my TV watching the movie, and there was the TV inside the movie. And I think that's what made it all this more scary to me, because the whole meta idea of this mass sacrifice of children through a big TV advertising a giveaway. The disguise of the big Silver Shamrock Halloween mask giveaway that's really just a mass sacrifice of children, of doing an ancient ritual Samhain sacrifice for the computer age. And actually, what I'm currently reading, besides all the comics I've got, but like an actual honest-to-God book, is... if I can find it under the pile of what I got right next to me. Where is it going? Where did I put that damn thing? Oh, right now, the book I've got, realize, is this: Into the Unknown, The Fantastic Life of Nigel Neal. He was a prominent TV writer throughout his career, and he wrote a series of TV miniseries in the 50s that were benchmarks for genre science fi fantasy fiction in the 50s that laid the groundwork for Doctor Who in the UK and for the X-Files in the US. And he also was famous for how the movies adapted from the Quatermass Experiment, which was the first major miniseries he wrote for the BBC, became a movie of the same name that was a great influence on John Carpenter, who, when he went and produced Halloween 3, he hired this writer to write the script for Halloween 3. But then the Carpenter himself rewrote so much of the script that they had him take his name off. And if you look later, there's a later chapter in this film in this book here that will talk about Neal's experience in Hollywood and his experience with having written the Halloween 3 initial script, if I can get to it. And they do actually have some printed ads for it, if I can get there. There's got to be a chapter later on. He also wrote a great TV special called The Stone Tape. And here we have got some black and white reprints of some frames from it. The Stone Tape, which was a TV, it was a feature-length TV special that was all about a British company for recording technology like RCA or Maxell, doing experiments in an ancient mansion that has ghosts inside it. So they decide to use their technology to develop a way of recording irrefutable proof of the afterlife. Hence why they have the name The Stone Tape. Their idea is that scientifically they're going to explain that the house itself is a form of recording technology for the ghosts and other spirits that haunted the mansion throughout the centuries that it's existed. That's actually now become in paranormal circles a theory for how you have the paranormal hauntings in mansions or asylums or in old hospitals or in old buildings like supposedly the Ground Hotel in the Upper Peninsula of right here in Michigan is a place that's had hauntings over the years. And the theory behind it is the stone tape theory, named after this TV special. But I'm trying to find where it went. I know there's a chapter here that shows some black and white bits, but the sort of cross-pollination of science fiction and fantasy, of science and folklore, was really the major themes of Neil's work as a writer, hence why they thought that hiring him to do a sort of a Halloween 3 as a dark magic sacrifice for the computer age was, the good idea. And the basic idea behind Halloween 3 is the script. That's basically the spine of the script of his original screenplay and what you see in the movie, including, the notorious scene of when they demonstrate the little chips of Stonehenge that the mask company stole and are putting inside every one of their silver shamrock masks. And they demonstrate by showing the subliminal message jack-o'-lantern TV flashing with the kid wearing one of the masks and how it melts his head, which I'm pretty sure that's why that was such a traumatic memory as a child, watching a little kid sit in front of the TV with that jack-o'-lantern flashing from opening credits, melting a boy's brain, and you see spiders and snakes crawling out of the eye holes, along with maggots and moths. Here's one. Add the movies to your wish list, Luke. Here's one. Christopher's asking if the movie Chatterbox is on Blu-ray. Yes, I just mentioned the Grand Hotel, and now Relentless brought up the Mad Woman of the Chalet. Here's one. According to Nick, the new Friday the 13th set has the uncut Jason Goes to Hell on Blu-ray for the first time ever. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. And Jason Goes to Hell was the first Friday the 13th sequel I remember watching. And now I remember because the opening scene, that sort of meta thing they do where they have a naked lady out in the middle of the woods to lure Jason out so the FBI can gun him down. The naked lady in the cabin who runs out into the woods to lure Jason into that convoy was none other than the one and only Julie Michaels, who was a prolific stunt woman, including doing a lot of stunt work for Pam Anderson, but she was also an actress, and her best known role, besides being in Jason Goes to Hell, was her part in Roadhouse as the trophy wife who famously does the striptease in the middle of the movie just because her rich husband tells her to strip in the middle of the bar. Yeah, I remember that film. Famous. The best remembered kill from the movie is the scene where they have the first person who's been possessed by Jason goes out into the woods and he sees a couple of teenagers out there, and there's the couple having sex in their cabin. The girl's on top, and he takes like a metal rod, impales the girl with it, and then he like rips it up, and you see her kind of split, like her. You see like her like whole left side of her sternum and the other side just kind of like fall apart separately into two different pieces. But here's one. According to someone saying, I saw Chatterbox at the Bel Air Drive-In on 8 Mile. Here's one. According to Nick, can't find the Halloween set on Amazon, but the Friday the 13th set is there. That's weird. You think especially around this time of year, they'd make sure that they'd be stocked with the Halloween Amazon. Amazon would have the Halloween set. Or the... Chill, kids. It's time for the big giveaway. If you have your masks, put on your masks and watch. Watch. Which, fun fact, that TV voice during the commercial that does the Silver Shamrock announcing, hey, kids, get your masks. That was the director. It was Relentless is confessing to having stolen the speakers from the Bel Air Drive-In and then bust them up in the car door to take them. It was then again, I can imagine that being something that would happen a lot with those drive-in theater speakers. I think probably why it probably would be less likely to steal something if you did the way John Waters talked about how he would watch movies at the drive-in. He would just climb up to a gantry that was a distance away from the drive-in, his local drive-in in Baltimore, and just watch with binoculars. That's how he would go see drive-in movies. like Night of the Living Dead. But he said, yeah, that was the first time he saw Night of the Living Dead was at a drive-in, his local drive-in over in the suburban Baltimore. There, it's according to this, Relentless, it wasn't just that, but she would watch Ghostbusters at the Belo Drive-In while doing tequila shots with lemons. Okay, wow. Thanks again, Nick. The Friday the 13th box set from Scream Factory, the horror division of Shout Factory, is going to be there at my doorstep on Thursday. I sincerely thank you for that. Here's one. And Relentless, besides taking tequila shots while watching Ghostbusters, Relentless would also stop off for those sliders at the White Castle on 8 Mile and Gratiot on the way home, always. And I think that White Castle is already there. I think I passed it earlier today. So it's a little local, a business that's still standing. The 8 Mile White Castle still there. Then again, that's a national chain. So we've the White Castle's so national and so prolific that the first R-rated movie with a fast food tie-in has White Castle in the title. Yeah, that's Here's one. According to Nick, yeah, the Friday the 13th set is in limited quantity and just came out. So now you have one. Nick already has a copy, so that's okay. Here's one. And now we got other people joking in the chat. I worked up quite an appetite from that. Relentless knows that I'm talking about Meow and a Meow back from Relentless. Geez, this is what I want to do. Well, I want to entertain you, and I also want to share lifetime experiences. What else is going on there? And I bet you for however much that Scream Factory Blu-ray would cost, it still probably costs a lot less than some of the Friday the 13th back issues of comics. Around the time Jason Goes to Hell came out was when Topps, the sports card company, started publishing comic books. And for a while, they had one where it was Jason versus Leatherface. And I went to Astronomicon. Both times I've gone to Astronomicon, I've seen a comic vendor who has a bunch of back issues of more horror-related stuff, like Evil Ernie and the Lady Death, and like Evil Dead comics and Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween stuff. And I would see, oh yeah, Leatherface versus Jason, and those back issues, the least expensive ones would be like $45. It's insane. Here's one. And Nick, Nick has seen the Leatherface comics. He should know what I'm talking about. It's like, good Lord. That was give her a little navel. I'm pretty sure we can show a navel right here without getting censored. So I'll show navel, but the Lifeforce bikini. That's I actually thought about doing one where it would be I would have the Space Girl modeling the nightgown she wears for that one scene, the one scene where she keeps any clothes on, as seen here in the director's cut disc. But then, that's not the Space Girl. We remember her as the naked space vampire. So make her naked. I'm not going to go and do a Jessica Alba Sin City thing where you're playing a stripper in a R-rated film, but you're not going to do any stripping. At least From Dusk Till Dawn makes up for Salma Hayek's lack of stripping by having all the other ladies, stripping or topless. And then they've got all the gleeful gore. So, and for those foot fetish people out there, besides Tarantino, you get to see Salma Hayek pour tequila down her leg through her, and then using her foot as a faucet into Tarantino's mouth before just sticking it up in there. It was there's one. There we go. Here's one. Relentless is asking Mildred if she ever used to go to the Mount Clemens drive-in. One time, but she preferred Bel Air. Relentless lived at right there on 9 Mile Road, so the Mount Clemens one was her preference. Here's one. I think this is more of a general question of Relentless asking if we've ever been to any strip clubs in 8 Mile. Nope, I haven't. I'm completely a virgin to that. So, I am completely a virgin to that. I wasn't sure if my enunciation made it clear of whether people thought I had said I have an aversion. That's why. I have to be careful with this microphone. Always make sure it's working and to make sure that what I'm saying is clearly heard. But that's why there's another film this time of year. There's the Halloween stuff. I always watch Friday the 13th stuff. I think though personally my favorite, if you're going to say favorite of those slasher franchises, Nightmare on Elm Street, where even the bad Elm Street sequels still had some kind of creativity to the death scenes and a creative idea. Each one of them has like a plot or like a way of Freddy, like, getting at the teens, where if you took Freddy Krueger out of them and made them their own original script, that would still be a great idea for a horror movie. All of those, even this, maybe except for the sixth one, that's like, like probably, like watch and laugh at its badness. Like Elm Street 2 is like boring. Most of the time it's boring, except for the like the hilarious homoeroticism in the film, where I mean, yeah, that's like been so well documented. It's like, okay, what else can be said about it? But then you have the fifth film where that's an idea where it's visually creative. I don't know why people hate on that one more than like others, especially because of how, it has that sort of, visually creative on a low budget kind of creature effects and fantasy nightmare dreamscapes that you see in the Freddy films. Like, why would you hate that so much? And you've got visuals like a bulimic girl being force-fed her own intestines as one of the death scenes. And another one, you've got a guy getting like fused, like in a gory body horror way, his body getting fused with a motorcycle, where the wires and the pistons and the exhaust pipes from the motorcycle stab their way into his body, burn all his skin off, and replace the muscle tissue with like carbon fiber and with wiring. So you have like a nightmare biomechanoid version of a motorcycle man. And then there's the funny, like kind of superhero inspired way where the last big death scene in the film is from a kid who wants to be a comic book artist. So of course the nightmare is that he gets sucked into a big comic book, and Freddy's Krueger's flying around, but the kid turns himself into a superhero alter ego to try and gun him down. But Freddy fights back with becoming Super Freddy and laser blasts him down to nothing and turns the kid into a human-shaped piece of paper and shreds him into nothing. That is goddamn creative. I don't so, and each I was saying, each of them, like the Elm Street 2 is the idea of the new kid who's moved into the old Elm Street house from the first movie is getting possessed by Krueger into killing people. A psychopath from beyond the grave possessing you into becoming a homicidal maniac. That is a disturbing idea outside of the Krueger concept that could work as its own movie. The best of the Elm Street sequels, the third one, a group of teens in a mental institution getting hunted by a supernatural entity and them using their idealized selves in their best possible dream state to fight him collectively. That's a great concept. The fourth film, where it's the idea of somebody absorbing the different abilities or the different talents of their friends as they're being killed one by one. That's creative. Elm Street 5, where it's somebody's you already have a pregnant teenage mother is the idea, yes, but then you have an unwed teenage mother whose unborn child is being fed the souls of all of her friends who are being supernaturally murdered, so that the unborn child will be reborn as the psychopath that's killing them. That's messed up. Or how, fun fact, the boy that you see in the dreams, who is the unborn child of the protagonist in Elm Street 5, is also the boy in Jurassic Park who makes fun of the Velociraptor bones looking like a 6-foot turkey. Yeah, that little kid, that's not very scary. It looks like a 6-foot turkey. And then Dr. Grant threatens him with the Velociraptor claw about how, if he could follow you and, slice here or maybe across the belly, spilling your intestines. Either way, you're alive when the Velociraptor starts to eat you. So don't make fun of them anymore, okay? Yeah, that the kid from Jurassic Park, his only other role, he's the unborn child of the final girl in Nightmare on Elm Street 5. And on top of it, the end credits of Elm Street 5, you have the great Kool Moe Dee diss track against LL Cool J called Let's Go. If you remember the great rivalry of LL Cool J in his 80s prime against rapper Kool Moe Dee, Mo Dee wrote a diss track of LL Cool J called Let's Go, and it plays over the end credits of Nightmare on Elm Street 5. Come for the Krueger mayhem, stay for the LL Cool J diss track. Yeah, and Nick agrees with me. Yeah, 3 and 4 Elm Street. The first, the third, and the fourth are Nick's favorites. Mine too, because the 7th one, that's like a meta movie where it's about Freddy Krueger as a fictional character. So that's sort of like an asterisk where that's not quite a movie. Like, that's why I've always been a fan and always been sympathetic to Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, because the whole idea of it being a movie about the phenomenon and the whole reaction to the popularity of the Blair Witch. And it was made with a documentarian's eye for that sort of public reaction to, mayhem or to cultural incidents or to media reaction. Because Blair Witch 2 was from the director of the great Paradise Lost HBO documentaries about the West Memphis Three. And the sequels are all about the continued case of trying to prove them innocent and of the public reaction to the whole phenomenon of the intention of the first Paradise Lost documentary. So you can see why that director would want to go and make a meta movie like Blair Witch 2 instead of doing a glorified remake, which is what Blair Witch did, in 2016. Yeah. Yep. Here's one. Now we got another one from Christopher talking about Slim Jim fries and chocolate milkshake from White Castle. Yum yum yum. But Nick says I don't like 2 and 5. Yep, those seem to be the ones that people don't like the most. And yeah, but when it comes to the Elm Street remake, even 2 and 5, which are the worst, are still creative. They've got an interesting idea and they've got creative kills. Even if the whole transformation scene in Elm Street 2, where it's Freddy literally ripping his way out of the guy's body and killing his friend, like that's grisly effects and a grisly idea as executed creatively, as opposed to the remake where I feel sorry for Jackie Earle Haley, because there's a guy who disappeared after the 70s, and then he made this great big Oscar-nominated comeback with his role in Little Children. And then, and you'd think, like, yeah, that Elm Street remake, okay, but there might be a bright spot because they've got an interesting casting choice. And essentially, yeah, just him alone as Freddy is like the closest we get to like anything, interesting or different or like, memorable in its own right. Yeah, there's although, yeah, even the Robert Englund cameo in a Halloween episode of the Goldbergs is still better than that. Like, I don't know if you saw that, but for the first time since Freddy vs. Jason, the Goldbergs got Robert Englund to come back as Freddy Krueger in a nightmare from one of the characters has, which is you got to remember, back then in the 80s, Krueger was so popular that Robert Englund appeared in character to VJ for MTV when the tie-in music video for the song that heavy metal band Dokken did for the third Elm Street appeared. And also, Krueger got his own anthology horror show that came out and was aired in syndication, first-run syndication before Tales from the Crypt, Freddy's Nightmares. It ran 44 episodes. They used to replay it on the channel FearNet before it went under. And on top of that, there's an episode that features a young Brad Pitt around the time that Robin Givens was cheating on Mike Tyson with him. He was getting a guest appearance on Freddy's Nightmares. It was yep, you are relentless. You are my kind of girl, says Mildred here in the stream. It was okay, but the Nightmare on Elm Street set will be there Monday. Thank you, Nick. It was according to Nick, that remake is not in this box set, so no loss there. Yeah, there's only 2 interesting things about the Elm Street remake. There's Jackie Earle Haley as Krueger because casting choice alone, and the switcheroo. There's the final girl and her boyfriend. The switcheroo is that in the original Elm Street, the final girl was just some actress, and her boyfriend was Johnny Depp in his film debut. And the final girl in the remake is played by Girl with the Dragon Tattoo star Kate Mara. No, Rooney Mara. Kate Mara is his sister. But yes, future Oscar-nominated baby mama of Joaquin Phoenix, Rooney Mara, is the final girl in the Elm Street remake. And yeah, I don't know if you heard about that, but yes, Rooney Mara and Joaquin Phoenix, they just had their first child. It was a boy, and they named him River. It's okay. It's either that's depending on your disposition, that's either a touching tribute to his brother or morbid. I'm on the that's I'm on the touching side, not the morbid side, but that's just me. Either way, he's a either way, Joaquin's on cloud nine now. People wondering if people ever would have thought that his career would recover from that weird mockumentary stunt he did, I'm Still Here, where he seriously pretended to try and reinvent himself as a white rapper, but it was all just one big mockumentary kind of prank in like an Andy Kaufman kind of way. And then the year after he appeared on Letterman with the beard and the weird sunglasses and mumbling everything, that was all like one big prank. He came on a year later to promote that fake documentary and spilled the beans about it. Oh, it was all just one big joke. That's why when he made that Oscar speech, when he was talking about taking milk from mother cows and all that stuff, I maintain that I don't take it too seriously, because I'm thinking, okay, I've seen this guy before. I've seen him pull pranks on like mocking celebrity culture and that sort of ego trips. So I'm thinking maybe it was all just one big deadpan joke that he's not going to explain to us. This is all some kind of prank in the vein of his documentary I'm Still Here. So it's well, either way, he just made Warner Brothers $1 billion, and he won an Oscar, and he's got a kid. Here's one. Yeah, what the hell was that acceptance speech about cow milk? Well, I'm not sure if Joaquin Phoenix is really vegan or if he's just like was saying that as part of the joke. The ragging on the celebrities, who it's the I mean, yeah, like I've mentioned before, I'm not a fan of like Chris Pratt as an actor, but it just further speaks to the insanity of the super woke culture that him joke tweeting about him wanting people to vote for his Pixar movie Onward at the People's Choice Award, and him saying every actor in Hollywood's telling you to vote. Well, I'm telling you out there to vote for my film Onward at the People's Choice Awards this year. And like those people are going insane. Those who revolve too much in their lives around their political affiliation or around what celebrities are telling them how to vote. Here's one. And a little bit of local history. We've got Mildred bringing up Morgus, the late night. He was the recently deceased Dr. Morgus, the late night horror host who hailed out of Detroit. He was Morgus was the Detroit equivalent to a late night horror host like Vampira or Elvira out of LA. And now Relentless is shaking up a bit with talking about in sports. I was watching the Thriller in Manila last night and the Rumble in the Jungle. Was that on a ESPN Classic? Because I know they would play those. The closed circuit TV broadcasts of the Rumble in the Jungle, the famous Ali Foreman and the third Ali Frazier fights, as they were known. Ali, the absolute legend. Yes. Apparently, yes, you can find them on YouTube now. I did used to own the VHS of the Thriller in Manila, and I'm guessing now somebody could just take that their VHS copy, do a digital like a DVD or a VHS transference of that, and then just post that on YouTube, and you can watch it for free, along with Rumble in the Jungle. If it's just the raw feed of the Rumble in the Jungle, because there was that documentary When We Were Kings, which shows footage, but I think that's available on HBO. You can watch anytime. So I've got HBO attached to YouTube TV, so it's okay. According to Mildred, she saw Ali in Detroit back in '78. I think that was the Ken Norton fight he had. It was the fight where he won back his belt and then retired. Well, that was supposed to be his retirement, but then he went and did the Larry Holmes fight and the Trevor Burbick fight. Which that was yeah, the I have a copy of the hardcover of the Superman versus Muhammad Ali comic, which actually came out. It came out in conjunction with both the Superman movie coming out in Christmas '78, as well as the Ali Norton rematch, where Ali won back the heavyweight championship and then retired. They showed that on ESPN Classic back in the day. That's when I saw that. But then later on, turns out, yes, it also coincided with the Superman versus Muhammad Ali title. That comic there, which, yes, Rumble, 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 the Superman loses. But remember, it was on a planet with a red sun, so it was a fair fight. I swear that to you, he may be the last son of Krypton, but I'm the first son of Louisville. It's the I ain't gonna go in there. I ain't gonna let no punk, no punt in a blue and a little red cape go around and embarrass me. I'm the one and only champion. I don't care. You may be the man of tomorrow, but come tomorrow, you're gonna be getting the biggest whooping of all time. Hey, I'm running out of what other sort of promos would he have against what would Ali have said against Superman if he really fought him? You know, as the slings with this left swings on some. I won't stop counting until Superman comes down. Superman starts to retreat. Well, we could just do the old, he'll end up in a ringside seat, but make it about Superman. He won't stop counting until Superman comes down. He'll be somewhere over the Atlantic. You just switch out everything that Ali ever said about an opponent and just make it about, come on, Superman, we're in Manila. Although then it won't really rhyme as much with the gorilla puppet he was hitting. Or if they got Norman Mailer to write a book about the Foreman Ali fight, how about getting Norman Mailer to go and write the Superman versus Muhammad Ali comic? That would have been amazing. It's not that Norman Mailer has some kind of aversion to comics. Remember it was him who made that famous quote that made The Sandman a New York Times bestseller when Mailer called The Sandman the comic book for intellectuals. I don't know if anybody there here in this audience remembers that quote, but yep, I certainly do. And how, like when we were Kings came out and they had an at the time on-camera interview with Mailer, and then he died before the documentary was released. It was that was sad. I think it was like months after he shot it was when he died. I'd have to go and look into that further. He'll be somewhere over the Atlantic. Okay. Kind of finish up this hair here. Yeah. I remember also what else. There's the Freddy. Although one, if you want a slasher comic to recommend, if you're out there and you'd like to see one around this time of year, there was a great crossover that was done called Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. After the success of Freddy versus Jason, they thought about doing a sequel where the way to ump the ante was to bring back Freddy and Jason, but make it a triple crossover between the two of them and the Evil Dead franchise. Where yes, Bruce Campbell would reprise his role from the Evil Dead franchise, and it would be him in a three-way battle between Freddy and Jason. The movie was in pre-production, but then for whatever reason it got canceled. But Wildstorm Entertainment bought the rights to the screenplay and turned it into a comic book, a 6-issue miniseries. I don't think it's been reprinted ever since, but that would be an interesting read to catch up if you're interested in a slasher-themed comic for this time of year. Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. Check it out. Yes. One last thing to do besides answering to the Space Girl's call to use my body, as she said. We have ourselves a finished piece right here. And with that, If you would like to buy this piece before it's posted for sale online, all you got to do is follow the link in the description below to my art store and make a custom donation of $30 if you live in the United States or $50 if you live abroad, and I will mail this out to you for you to put up on your wall or to give as a gift to a friend if you so wish. Besides that, you can also commission me for a pen and ink illustration at this size at $50 a piece plus shipping and handling. I also have 4 categories of pen and ink illustrations available for sale at $25 a piece plus shipping and handling, as well as 4 categories of color drawings that are for sale at $20 a piece plus shipping and handling. Color drawings such as this one of the Space Girl, which a $30 donation in the US or abroad will get this sent to you. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I also have an Amazon wish list, which you can follow and help my channel by making a purchase from that wish list. Until then, see you tomorrow night. I'll be live again, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Hope you all enjoyed yourselves. See you, Space Cowboy.